is be true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, haunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied.
Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. What a lively hour. You guys looked up and just like, whoa, the hour is gone.
Yeah, you didn't get a chance to... thank you, brother. We didn't get a chance to actually talk much about anything other than the mayor, man, because it took so quick.
Yeah,
it went so quick, man. Yeah. It's like, what happened?
You know, round table. You know, it goes back.
Pastor Hobbs throws up his fingers. Yeah. It was like, what?
I thought he was like giving us the peace sign.
Like, we're like, take it easy. You know, he's like, no, brother, this is 2 more minutes.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Take it easy, but it's 2 minutes.
2 minutes. He said the music is coming. We want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, good branch manager Cora Holbrook could call it. Area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. Guaranteed to exceed your expectations. You know, gentlemen, we got to get Cora back in here at the beginning of the new year because there's been some good financial signs that looks like things are stabilizing. Inflation. It's like this is what I'm talking about. When you live in an echo chamber, there's a lot of good happening. Donald Trump drove this bus in the ditch, and now he's blaming everyone else. Instead of Republicans and people applauding that we didn't, they're almost like wishing that we go into a recession because that helps their political. It doesn't help the people who they claim that they care about. Yeah. Right. That inflation is coming down. I'm looking at gas prices have come down considerably. You know, Donald Trump's, the stock market, he said it was going to go under President Biden. It actually
when interest rates go up, it's a good time for bonds. So if you're in the bonds, you're making money.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and not James Bond. But there's been a lot of good things, and the feds are signaling they didn't have any increases, and they're signaling that there may be at least 2 to 3 decrease cuts in interest rates next year. So that will, stimulate the housing market. It's kind of cooled up, but this is what they wanted because things were getting somewhat out of control.
I think people got to understand that, first of all, that the president has no control over the feds.
Right.
All right. People look at it like, that's a separate entity that's making those
But to
decisions.
your point, you're absolutely right, because for a long time I thought because it's the Federal Reserve, and that name alone, people think it has some
private corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
But people think
I think one of the things that we have to think about here, though, as we move forward into 2024, is that our country is just in the world actually is just beginning to recover from bringing the supply side of our economy back online.
Absolutely,
the whole supply side was gone.
And Dr. Bradley and Rose, I know you're a financial guy. Dr. Bradley was in the market, so I'm the only one here that only goes to the grocery supermarket. That's the only market I've been in. So you guys have been in that.
But you have the money to go in. You have the money to go and go well.
Yeah,
but anyway,
but I say this because I think a lot of people don't understand. Like you said, around the world, their economies are not bouncing back the way America's is. No. And if you in some of these other countries, they are looking still at a recession, and we look like, from all indicators of folks who know better than I, that we're going to probably experience a soft landing rather.
Yeah, we're gonna experience a soft landing. But the landing that we experience will not be recognized by a segment of society who's bent on making sure that certain people are not getting equal rights.
Right.
So all throughout the history of America, as you lay it out, every time there was a movement for equality, justice, and respect for black people of color, especially black people, there was an equal response from the other side to prevent that.
No, and let's say every step we've made, one step we've made forward, we've made 3 steps back.
Exactly. So you understand. Now you had the civil rights movement. You had, the Reconstruction. Yeah. So now we got and not necessarily and at all. It was Reconstruction was first. But my point is that now you have Black Lives Matter. There's an equal response on the white side to prevent that inclusion. So, and I see a group of people who will not recognize, will not acknowledge.
Right.
Talking about cognitive dissonance, they're not going to acknowledge what this guy has done because they do not want him in office.
Right, and exactly. That's why they've gone to the impeachment inquiry. Right.
For what?
Right. Exactly.
For what?
They're looking for a crime. Right. That didn't happen. Right.
Well, the thing is, they want to say, "Oh, he got impeached," so just like
that's
Donald
it. That's
Trump,
to appease.
just to be like.
It was very telling when one of them said, that during in one of their closed meetings, the things we do for the Orange Jesus, right? Talking about Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor the other day, basically saying from day one before he was in there, we're going to impeach him. We'll find something, right? Where they were a crime looking for a crime scene. Right?
Well, see, but if I were a Republican, which I repudiate their platform, but if I were a Republican, I would be very concerned about my possibility of controlling the House on either side of the chamber, because when people like us who are looking at it, who are reasonably intelligent, look at this and say, okay, what have you done?
Thank you. Preach, brother. Preach.
I have given you the control of one chamber.
Right.
Slim?
Right.
But you had control of
it.
So what have you done other than revengeful politics?
That's it.
I'm not giving it to you.
There's been no legislation.
None.
We've had almost 3 where we gone into default almost 3 times, right? At the brink every time. That's not good for the
dude. You can't even find a Speaker of the House. You can't even get a Speaker.
Right. Shortest in history. Right.
Exactly. I mean, so I think if I were a Republican who's running for office, intending to go, that's why a lot of these guys are moving out because they realize, hey, listen, this is going to be a problem.
Rational
because
people.
Even the people that we had are looking at this saying, dude, what are you doing?
Unless you're in a cult or sycophants. It's like, Donald Trump claiming that, during his time, we're going to grab this call, that, he was able to control the border, right? And I was talking to someone yesterday, said, well, under Donald Trump, there weren't as many people coming in. I said, coming across the border. I said, you know what? You are absolutely right. And do you know why that is? Oh, because he didn't. I said, no, because of COVID, it allowed them to shut down the border. And you couldn't claim asylum or anything because the country was basically closed
down. All countries were.
Exactly. And so you didn't have the rights that you have now. Once that had been lifted, Title 42, now you have to allow people to go through the process. So that's the only reason why people were turned away immediately.
I do concur. I do agree wholeheartedly that we have a broken immigration
Absolutely.
system.
I don't think
there's no question about it. But I think it's broken on the south side of the border as well as on the northern side of the border.
But we only want to fix one.
But we only want to fix one side.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that tells me that, there's something else happening undercurrent here. And we don't want those people coming in. And so with that, when they come in, they're going to vote a certain way. And at the same time, and watch this now, the statistics are showing that our death rate is outpacing our birth rate. So therefore, our representation in society is going to decrease under a democracy which says that the majority rules. That's the real issue.
Speaking of majority, good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Good morning. How are we doing?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Doing all right. I got a couple of things here. I don't know which order you want to take it. One about.
Well, let's get an update first on the O'Brien. On how.
Okay. Well, essentially, we all know that the Mayor Wu, some months ago, came out with a press conference stating that the intention was to move the John D. O'Brien to West Roxbury. No consultation with the community done whatsoever, which is her style. No disrespecting this community, that's her style. So anyhow, we at the Black Information Center, we did a press conference up there immediately opposing it. Now, what has happened is that there's been a leaning, if you will, towards still about moving it to West Roxbury, at least coming from Mayor Wu's administration. And so essentially, we've been speaking out against it. And so one of the things that we did recently, because, unfortunately, Mayor Wu has made it a tradition to ignore the wishes of the community, even when folks request meetings. So knowing her history, we did not request a meeting. received an email with the flyer that we did that we come in the spirit of
put it out
Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
And so what it is, and now let me just say this, that I've been working with the parents at the John O'Brien's. They've been very cooperative and appreciate the fact of our involvement. Mm-hmm. And so essentially we designated the 14th of December to meet with the mayor and said we were coming. So the 14th, I was pleased. We had about 20 people that showed up. And so we were down there, 5th floor, of her office. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we were there out there in the lobby area. And so we were told that we didn't know she'd be available. She had her appointments, and we could talk to her assistant. And so I said, no, we're not here to talk to the assistant. We're going to talk to the mayor. So we were out there, and so I was talking to some people, and people kept pointing to the back of me. And I turned around, and who was standing there but the mayor? And so we ended up going into her office. And so, of course, she was getting ready to give her little speech, which she started. And I said, well, with all due respect, Mayor Wu, I said, you know, we can make this a very short meeting. I said, we're here, number one, of course, to protest the move out of Roxbury to West Roxbury. But the second and most important aspect is that we're here to present another proposal because your administration is saying that you've only had one proposal. And so what we laid out there was the fact that we want the school to remain where it is, but the key is that I had a conversation on a couple of occasions with David Lee. Remember Stolen Lee? Of course, brother Stoll passed away some years ago. And then talking to David, I said, well, you understand the scenario over there at that location. I said, can you come up with an architectural design that would accommodate everything that they're putting out there? And he didn't say to me, well, Siddiqui, let me get back to you on that. He said, absolutely. He says, I'm in. You let me know when. So at the meeting, we pressed, you know, Deion Irish was one of her people in her administration. And so what happened was that we indicated that we wanted to have a meeting with her team, including herself, and our team that would include David Lee, who said, let me know when you're going to have that meeting. He says, and I'll be able to put it out there. So essentially, what we're saying to the mayor is, we would like for you to get behind David Lee and his company with the resources necessary for him to come up with the design and to move forward to do this. And so we're talking about the monetary aspects that.
So Siddiqui, so let me jump in here. So what is that the reason is they saying the space? Is that the primary reason
they're saying they want to increase the capacity of the O'Brien. They want to bring in an additional 600 students, and they want to bring in more students at Madison Park.
So why couldn't you actually, because the population of enrollment at Madison Park has declined, and honestly there's not much learning, the easiest solution would be to switch buildings, right, and leave them in to put the O'Brien in Madison. Has a larger space, the campus is larger, and to move the Madison Park kids next door.
No, the easiest thing is for the administration, in terms of the future. Let me give an example. I used to teach in the Worcester public schools years ago. In fact, my friend Fleming knew that. And so what it is that they had Worcester Trade School up there in Worcester, and it was the worst trade school in the state. And what happened was that the city of Worcester committed resources, including financial, and so at this very day, the Worcester Trade School is ranked as the #1 trade school in the state. And so the bottom line is that this is not about flipping buildings. This is about, first of all, expanding the space to accommodate the numbers, but also to move, because they have the Friends of Madison Park, to improve the quality of education at that facility.
So let me give you another option, that because you know they do it with one of the other schools at one of the campuses. They have multiple campuses and at the what's the school there down on Newberry Street there,
The performance school?
No, it's on Newberry Street, but they have 2 campuses. It's a building that they would love to get rid of, but the benefactor who passed away said it could only be used for a public school. It's probably one of the most expensive properties on Newberry Street, right?
Yeah.
So they can't do it, but they also have one campus there, and then they have one about 5-minute walk over at the YMCA, because the building is not large enough to accommodate all the students. And my just to throw this out there for you, Siddiqui, if the O'Brien, it's same thing, right? Is that you could have it in 2 different campuses, and what I'm saying is that, and so that they could be in close proximity, they shut down the Timothy School. How about renovating that building? It's only a 5-minute walk up the hill from the O'Brien, and then you could retrofit that building to accommodate the additional students that you want, because right now the basic building is being used as administrative, which they have plenty of space around the city.
So you have like a campus type approach to the education.
Well, let me address that. We have, I suggested a title, and by and large folks have accepted that. In terms of Malcolm X Boulevard, we've declared that as the education corridor. And so we've got RCC, Madison Park, the O'Brien, and then the incoming Franklin Cummins Institute of Technology. We're hoping they're going to take down that Franklin name because he was a slave owner. But the bottom line is that that's the designation. We're saying we already have the location. We have an architect who's nationally renowned, who says that he can do whatever's necessary to accommodate keeping both those schools right there. So,
well, I mean, I'm saying, but in the short term, if you want to increase the, you have a facility right up the street, because I don't think the education should have to wait. Or if they're saying that there's clearly they say there's room for another 600 students, or however, whatever the number is of students that would qualify to be in that type of learning environment. Why not moving? Because that's kind of where I was segueing into this hour. Is, we're seeing a spike in the violence in our young people in the schools, not just in the schools, Siddiqui. This past week alone, and it doesn't get the attention that it deserves, and it's very troubling. I was at a meeting at the MBTA location over there, and they were showing some of the violence that these young people are inflicting on people on the transit, also over at South Bay and throughout the neighborhoods, the Burger King up there, Washington. So I get the push for keeping these schools stable in our community, but we also have to look at the impact that this is having with the number of the students, that the decrease in the number of students in the Boston Public Schools should be alarming, as well as them moving them around, because it's really just a pawn game that's being played with our kids. There's very little learning, honestly, that's taking place, and I see it firsthand. The O'Brien is a crown jewel as far as education and learning, but it should be the norm, not the exception.
And I agree, and that's all more reason to say that we don't want to lose this exam school to another area, because West Roxbury wants it and to become predominantly white. We know the whole deal, and so we're saying we've got the education corridor, and that we've got David Lee, who's saying that he can come up with a strategy and an architectural
No, I get that, Siddiqui, and I applaud that. But I'm saying, who has the strategy for dealing with the violence and dealing with the lack of learning that is taking place? That's they have to go hand in hand, because we could have a nice, beautiful building and then no learning. Because example is Madison Park right next door. I think it's like a tale of two cities, right? Where you have kids, I can tell just from their book bags which kids are O'Brien kids and which kids are Madison Park when they're walking down the street from that complex.
Well, you're better than me. I come through there, and all I see is young people. And I'm thinking about what we can do to improve the environment for them in terms of attaining everything you're talking about was improving the quality of education at Madison Park.
Right,
but that's not an issue at John Deere Bryant.
No, it's not. That's a plus. That's what I'm saying, is that you're already starting in a good position, right? This is really just about a location of a facility. But the bigger problem outside of that doesn't get the attention, that's what I'm saying, Siddiqui, is...
You mean like at Nubian Square?
What do you mean?
Here you go.
You want to see? You got to. I'm going to stay on topic because it's very important
No,
here.
this is on topic too, because
Right.
you're talking about crime and the fact that.
No, I'm not talking about crime. I'm talking about education.
You're saying that crime is rampant in Nubian Square, so I figured it was connected.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about our young people, and the reason why I say that because it's my opinion. It's a trap that we're leading our kids in, where we're saying, okay, we don't want to criminalize our young people. The juvenile system absolutely is designed to rehabilitate, right? Not to punish young people. But we also are sending a message that this behavior is acceptable until you get to a certain age, and then we're going to hold you accountable. And we know, like someone who has been addicted to drugs, they don't get off it the first time, and if they continue to allow them to have, it's just a matter of time before they're addicted. And I think our kids are becoming addicted to this violence and this behavior.
Well, you see, we have to be careful, because let me just say this: that we acknowledge the fact that there are some youngsters. We've been saying this for years, not just now. That there's that 2% of our young people who wreaking the havoc. And we try to give the appearance that our youngsters across the board.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
And we even have to take the 2%. And I've worked, and I know you have. I've worked with some of the 2% who turn their lives around.
Right, but here's
the bottom line is that we don't want to give the impression that our youngsters are out of control. Look, I go through there all the time by Madison and the O'Brien when they getting out of school, and I don't see them rampaging and arguing or screaming at each other. They just heading for their destination. So the bulk of our youngsters are good young people that are looking. Let me give you a quick example.
Right. I got to grab this. Go ahead, because I want to bring this other caller in, because I think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying here. I'm saying that is starting to grow, because I talk to a lot of young people, and they're saying, look, well, why does this person get away with it? That there's no incentive for them to behave, because they see that these people, the younger people, their friends are getting away with it. This is becoming acceptable behavior, and the services and some of the help that used to be.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
being quote unquote acceptable behavior.
Okay,
the young people that I'm around, the people I talk to that work with young people. That mentality is not there.
Well, like I said, this is where there's such a disconnect.
I think it's trying to say is that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so the kids that are getting in trouble, the focus is on them as opposed to the good kids.
Right. So stand by for a second. I want to bring this other caller in, because I know you've been patiently waiting. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Come on. Is this Pastor Dan?
It is.
Good morning. Long time no see. Pastor Dan.
Yeah, well,
Sounds travels.
This is something you probably didn't even know, but I actually worked in the youth detention system.
No, I did not. No.
As what they called a counselor.
Okay.
And it really, you're a counselor, but that's not allowed to really actually counsel the people.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Your title's a counselor, but you're actually not allowed. You can't talk about religion. You can't talk about just politics. There's so many rules that you can't do. But when it comes to the people who are incarcerated, which is essentially really what it is, they half of them were just thinking this was like a kindergarten. A training for their prison life, and the other half were like, okay, I'm never going to come back here. So it depended on the individual.
Right. And to that point, let me just say that, because there's been some reforms, and I think that people didn't understand some of the consequences, right? And let me give you a quick example of that. So prior to the reforms that took place here in the police oversight, right, is that I could encounter a young person, and if that person was in trouble or had committed a crime, I could, with an interested adult, i.e. being a guidance counselor or teacher, right, we could go into there and sit in their room and try to come up, especially if we knew the parent was not going to participate in this and the parent was a part of the problem. We could now engage and try to get some structure in this young person's life. That has been taken away. I can no longer have that conversation with that guidance counselor and that student unless the parent agrees to it. And well, I already know if the parent isn't even coming up to school to deal with the problem with the school, they're not coming up there. This has given them an out of their responsibility. And that's what I'm saying. There's been some reforms that people like myself who aren't looking to put young people in jail, I no longer have access to try to redirect their behavior. I now have to wait until they come to school with a loaded gun, and then I get called and then they telling me, well, you know, Johnny's been acting up and he's been with the wrong people for the last 3 weeks, but we can't call you under those reforms to get you involved on the front end. Now he's got the gun. We need to call you because he's saying it with a loaded gun.
Right, and that's the other issue. I know when life has the way of doing these things. I ran across. I was there for almost a year, and I did see a lot of young men, and they used to say, well, you know, they all thought, well, after they tried to test me, which didn't work out well, they realized that I was serious about they're getting better. And a couple of them actually said to me afterwards, when I met them in the streets later on in life, they said, yeah, you tried to let us know that the path we were on was a lie.
Well, right. That's good. So there's 2 meetings that I would love to have you gentlemen attend if you can. One is at it's held every Wednesday. It used to be at the L.J. Bagel, but it's under construction. It's at the church there at the corner of Warren and Elm Hill. It's 551 Warren Street, right? It's the Youth Violence Reduction Task Force, and it's police and community activists and community leaders and counselors. It's every Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. It's only an hour. They start on time, they end on time. They report out on what's going on in the school. Not in the school, in the city. And the dominant of the conversation in there is our young people. And there's another one on Thursday, a different one at the MBTA headquarters right there at Southampton Street. It's open to the public. That is from 10:30 to 11:30. And I attend both of those meetings on a regular. And what I see and what dominates that, and it is troubling as should be, and this is what I say, sometimes we see things just like Siddiqui, and like I said, he just sees young people walking down the street to the T station. And I said, just take a look and see which ones have book bags and which ones don't, right? I can tell you which ones have the book bags. It's usually the kids from the O'Brien School. I'm not saying all the kids at Madison are, but the vast majority of them walk out of there with nothing in their hands. And those are the ones a lot of times that are pushing the violence. And not just that school, the Henderson school. I mean, I'm in the schools all day long. I'm listening to these calls all day long where we're responding to 7-year-olds and the inappropriate sexual behavior that we're seeing in this school and at younger ages. I'm seeing it firsthand. I'm not talking about something third hand. I'm talking about what I know, what I see, what I deal with is one of the reasons that I'm getting out, because I cannot sit there and watch this and knowing there's very little, if anything, I can do until these people get to a certain age and they've already built up a tolerance for this type of behavior.
So I guess that must be frustrating.
Yeah, and the other part of this is, like you said, the home life. You know, some of the jokes still are, unfortunately, still the truth. The home life is the issue. You've got parents that are not parenting. And quite frankly, when can they parent? When you have to pay 2/3 of your income for rent, how are you going to parent? How is the parent? How is the mother supposed to do that? Where's the father?
Well,
this whole concept of family,
right. Even to that point, Pastor Dan, we used to do Operation Homefront, where we went out with clergy on Thursday nights, and we were just there really as providing support and security. The clergy knocked on the door, introduced themselves. They took over. We were just there with them, because like I said, some of these neighborhoods are not the safest for these folks to be in, and that hasn't happened in over 5 years now. That kind of has been shut down. It was very effective, and because we would get referrals from the schools, would say, hey, Johnny or Sarah, something's not right, and so it was a friendly visit, nothing confrontational, not a law enforcement driven, other than driving them to the homes. That doesn't take place any longer, and I found that to be I was skeptical when I first started. I'm like, what is it going to do with clergy and going to people's house? And then I found out how impactful it was, and these families actually invited these clergy back, connected with them, got involved with them with services that they needed. So there was that component. Not everyone took them up on it, but a lot of people did. And
right, and then you have this whole thing where now the police are being humanized within the community as opposed to demonized. And there's this whole.
Right.
I still believe that there's this whole concept out there to demonize the police because it's useful. It fits narrative.
Right.
It keeps you can't have if all of a sudden the police officer is seen as someone human, how can you demonize?
Right.
Well, if someone, no, I shouldn't say. If people did not encounter individuals who will hold them accountable, then it becomes the approach is to demonize them, so that you won't have to have them hold you accountable.
Right.
Let me explain where I'm going with this. All the respect for rules and regulations are local. That's why I want to start off with. It's local, and what I mean by that, it starts in your home. You know, it starts with the rules that daddy and mommy and your other siblings put in place around your behavior in their home. That's where you're taught that if I violate these rules, then I'm gonna have to be held accountable by my mom, my dad, and there's consequences associated with it. Those rules, when you migrate that up to society, we call those rules laws, and we call brother and dad the enforcement officers who are now enforcing those rules, because those rules are nothing but words on paper. All right, unless there's an enforcement teeth behind it.
Yeah.
You know, so the way I'm going with this is that if you do not learn how to respect rules and regulations in your home, you're not going to do it when you get to be an adult in society.
Yeah.
So the major part of the problem, I'm sitting back here saying, where are we dealing with the parents?
Yes.
And how are we holding the parents accountable?
Yes.
Well,
we're focusing on the child, but not the
What I'm
parent.
saying, we've released them from their responsibility.
Well, just remember, from 0 to 5 are the most formative years of a child's life.
Yep.
And if you, as a parent, have not gotten and taken a step to make sure that child is set up to understand, to listen to,
And I hear, hold on, let me put this out there, Pastor. I hear, and I appreciate, as a former director of climate and safety for schools in Randolph, I appreciate the issues that parents are having around maintaining a life, a house, and maintaining a roof over their heads and food. I got all that, you know. But on the same side of that argument, we have to also understand that a parent is incumbent upon the parent to reach out to say, "Listen, I need help in this area. I need resources." And my parents did it. Your parents did it.
Right.
And we grew up to be police officers.
But literally, there is no magic pill, and what I mean by that is we're medicating these kids, right? Because it's a big business now, right? Because we didn't need medication to correct our behavior. What we needed was adult intervention.
But you have to see the surreptitious intentions here. See, what's happening here is that if I prevent you from disciplining your children so that they will focus on education, now that child is out of the mix when it comes down to my child competing against my child for a particular
Well, that's
job.
why I say the O'Brien should be the exception, not the norm. I mean, the norm, not the exception. Go ahead, Dan, and I want to bring Sadiq. I want to get Sadiq's for.
Let me add this to it. When I was working in the system, what I learned is that most of the offenders that were there, who I would consider to be quote unquote hardcore, these are the ones that were down. They believed they were thug life. Most of them were mentally in prison or in that situation at least a whole calendar year before their body was there.
Yeah.
If you ask them, and I proved that by asking them, I say, give me an example of your day. It started with getting up late.
Right.
It started with drinking or smoking or some sort of numbing the brain.
Yeah.
It proceeded into trying to figure out how to get money to keep doing that.
Right.
It never had any quote unquote accountability.
Well, I think Sadiq. Thank you. Because I think Sadiq kind of answered that without realizing it when he said that their visit down there to the mayor to advocate to keep the O'Brien where it is. And he said he had a good showing because 20 people showed up, right? 20 people. And I'd be willing to bet there are more than 20 parents who have students in the O'Brien school system. I.e., that making the case.
Like he said, if you
let me just say this. I feel like I'm listening to Howie Carr.
No,
we have to be very careful in terms of how we generalize.
No, we don't have to tiptoe around the truth.
The folks a lot of the 20 that came down there, they represent different groups that are affiliated with our.
Where are the parents, though, Sadiq?
The danger here is that when you present like this, you give the impression that this is a dominant in terms of the family infrastructure for us. There's a certain percentage of youngsters and families that do have that problem. When I go up Malcolm X Boulevard when the youngsters are getting out of school, I can't tell the difference between a youngster from Madison Park or their Bryant by looking at their book bag. We can't generalize like that. All I know is when I go through there, there's no problems.
But Siddiqui, I have to be honest.
I'm acknowledging the fact that we got work to do.
Siddiqui, it's just like when we Siddiqui. You have to be careful, sir, because when you say that you can't distinguish between, I'm not noticing crime when I drive through Nubian Square, and that you're saying everything. I'm not saying that there hasn't been improvements. Yes, there have. I've seen those, but there is still a lot of work to get through. And I think when we try to make it seem that I'm not saying that every student that doesn't have a book bag is getting in trouble. What I'm saying is that if you have a school that is at level 4, which is Madison Park, in jeopardy even before this whole state takeover of the whole system, that school has been in problems for a long time.
Very long.
And there's nothing academically, right? So I'm saying, let me finish, gentlemen. So if we're talking about improving the structure, that works at the O'Brien because the learning is taking place there. But you could put a brand new building there in Madison Park, and they've actually increased the enrollment at Madison Park, but they haven't increased the learning at Madison Park.
And that's part. Yeah. You're familiar with the Friends of Madison Park, right?
Yes, I am.
And their emphasis is on that very thing that you're talking about. Along with the problems with the facility, they're talking about improving the quality of education at that location. So I'm just saying that we got to look at it from the perspective of what are we going to do to change that.
Right.
And so I'm not just saying that a new facility is going to happen. I'm saying that there's something going on now in terms of saying, because there was a time at Madison Park when you drive through there at night and white men and women be lined up there taking classes. So we're saying let's do the work that's necessary to improve the quality, but not generalize and make it seem like
there's no generalization. I think if we're just painting this picture that the only thing we need to do is make sure that the O'Brien stays at the O'Brien, I think that's the wrong picture. I think that is definitely the wrong picture. That's what you're saying. That's what you haven't touched on.
About the education corridor,
right?
Like ICC, Madison Park, O'Brien, and the incoming Franklin.
So Siddiqui, the leadership is communicating. Do you know how they can work cooperatively? Okay, Siddiqui, we're gonna have a conversation here. So Siddiqui, okay, so let's look at that. Okay, let's look at reality. This is not a positive or negative, right? Because this is not a car battery. So what I'm saying to you is, how many kids from Madison Park are transitioning to even Roxbury Community College? How many of them are going there from Madison Park that are enrolling down the street in this education corridor? No, I'm asking you a question. Do you have an answer? Okay, go ahead.
The interim president at RCC, Jackie Jenkins Scott, has implemented a procedure.
That's not what I'm asking about procedures. I'm talking about actionable items. Is how many students from Madison Park have enrolled at Roxbury Community College. Can you get that information? If you don't have it, listen, I'm going to be fair.
I'm just saying the things you're talking about, they're put in place. I mean, let me just say this, Larry. I like and respect you, but just like with Nubian Square, you're uninformed about what's really going on.
I know. Okay. Hold it. Go ahead. Dan, do you want to weigh in? Because I live in the real world, and that's
Brother Siddiqui and I have gone round and round over this for over 20 years.
I've known you 20 years, Pastor.
Actually, you do, because you and I talked when we talked on the morning show back on RKO. Don't go there.
Go ahead, Dan.
All right. So this is that same issue that you have had your entire life, your entire career. It is always these theories, these concepts, these ideas that don't pan out in the real world.
I see. Like Nubian Square.
Siddiqui, let him finish, and I'll let you respond. Let him finish.
I work with gangs there, Pastor. I never seen you work with gangs, so don't get me started now.
Let him finish.
I'm being very, very diplomatic right now, but don't get me going.
If this is diplomacy, wow. Well, you wouldn't last at the UN.
I have to admit, he is diplomatic. I mean, he can get worse. Trust me.
So when it comes
God help us.
What really really, and see, this is the point. You asked a very specific question. Show me where what you're talking about, what you're advocating, and what you're doing makes an actual difference.
And that's what I've asked. I'm not right. If you're saying that there's improvements, show me.
And he has not ever been able to do it.
Well, let me just say it, Pastor. You need to sell that out there in Framingham because there's no credibility in terms of what you're talking about.
That's an opinion.
You don't want to compare resumes, brother. Trust me.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. Don't get me about smiling. He knows me. He knows that I'm
stand by. Let's bring this other caller in. Let's bring this other caller in. Let's get a different. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
I do, however, would like to compare resumes.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Now we have the trifecta.
Yeah. This is why we call it the round table.
Right.
So, brother,
is it round 3?
Yeah,
ding, ding, ding.
I would suggest that we calm down,
Absolutely.
and that we allow each other to articulate their position,
Talking over each other
and not talk over each other, so it doesn't become this shouting match on the radio, and because we have people who are going to listen to us, and they're going to turn us off because we have this shouting match over each other. So please let each other actually articulate their position.
So and we're going to be the arbiters of time. So Jamal, want to get you to weigh in. You just got back in. Go ahead. You want?
All right. So I'm gonna just say quickly. I know, as he already said, he thinks this is comical, these type of things. We know about this. I know he thinks it's personal. It's really not. As I've tried to
Siddiqui, hold on. See, you're already breaking the rules. Right, exactly.
I can't even get two sentences.
Go ahead, Jamal.
Despite the many times that I've said it's not personal, what the problem is for me...
Go ahead, Jamal.
Frank Hobbs, did the church invest in the mute button? You got mute buttons on these lines?
We may have to exercise.
So all I'm saying is that despite how many times I've said it's not personal, he's always going to say that it is. And that's okay. For me, where the misinterpretation is it's not personal. It's the same arguments I really have with my own family, who just refuse to see my own mother is about to vote for Trump again. You can imagine what those conversations are like. So my point is, both Larry and I, we've been together. We've gone down to Nubian Square, and I just want to use a point that, like, this refusal to acknowledge what other people are seeing, and then basically clown the other people like you don't know what you're talking. Larry, you've only been a cop. Well, this is your rookie year. You're about to retire after being a rookie. You don't know nothing. What you see, that ain't true. I know everything because I'm the chief authority on this area.
Well, Jamal, I remember.
Hold on, let me just finish here. And it's just really not genuine. You and I have both seen it with our own eyes. Other people have as well, but he's going to continue this narrative. And as is typical to his style, he's also going to use condescend people, make critical of people, take it back to Framingham and all that. That's what he has, because that's what he has when he's light on facts and reality.
So let me. I'm gonna let Siddiqui. Hold on, Siddiqui. I'm gonna let you respond, because let me just share this with you, because recently Jamal called me. He was, and this is what I'm saying. This is with our young people and this violence that's taking place. It's not germane just to the schools. It's spilling out into the communities, and I highlighted some of them.
Okay.
Jamal, Siddiqui, let me say this, and I'll let you speak. Jamal called me recently, and he's like, he was over at South Bay. Jamal, you remember that call? And you were saying you were about to get out. These kids look like they were looking for their next victim, and he said, "Hey, if I get out of my car and these kids are looking there because they're already rousing other people, that he doesn't want them to confuse that he's one of these weak persons that they're gonna." And this is exactly what he's calling me, looking for advice, in the sense that I don't want to hurt one of these young people, but I know what they're up to. I can identify someone who's up to no good.
Okay,
I'm not talking about every kid, but this is what I'm saying, is that, so to deny that this is a problem, this is an issue, is just wrong, and we can't deal with it. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Dickie, you got it.
Yeah, let me just make a suggestion. First of all, a lot of folks say to me that, how come Jamal doesn't like you? Okay, let's move on to that. That the bottom line is that you're familiar with the Nubian Square Task Force, right? They meet every other Wednesday. All right, now, a week ago Wednesday, they met at the bowling building, and who was there? None other than Michelle Wu, and they had a full house. what they talked about was how the environment at Nubian Square has improved significantly in the last few months. And that there was a report that, quote-unquote, crime is down from your people, Larry, 20% in the area. So all I'm saying is that it's not ideal, but not to recognize the fact that there has been improvement. And I still, that's right, Jamal, I go through there 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You can go down there right now by the convenience store and the liquor store. You won't find them saying folks hanging out. You won't find them hanging out on the Nubian Ocean side either, because they're a community and they communicate, and right now they're trying to figure out where they're going to be at, because even when they shut down the tents, folks said, oh, they're going to come down to Ziegler Street. They have not come down, because right now what they're saying among themselves is that Nubian Square is not the place where we can hang out. And let me just say this, I've been called anti-police for a long time.
I don't think you're anti-police.
And let me just say this, that it's due to the cooperation of B2. First of all, the former captain and now Captain Hussein, who, when I presented a systemic plan to them back in the spring, that they have made that operational, and that has made it, not them being aggressive and going down and harassing people, but they're there strategically, and the message out to them folks is that we don't know where to go, because every time we turn around, there's a blue light flashing. So I'm not saying it's ideal. I'm just saying that there's an improvement there. Go to the next task force, and you'll hear folks in
all right. So we got it, because we're limited on time. Let me respond.
I said to her, everybody's bragging in there about how it's improved. I said, but I don't see them out in the street. She's upset with me. I put that challenge to you once again. Come out there and check it out for yourself. And I hear folks. Maybe Jamal. He's down there at City Hall.
Hold up.
May I respond?
Hold up. Let me just set the framework. We have to keep, because we have a lack of time. We're questioning against time. We got to keep our response to a manageable time frame, because we're going on. We're articulating, and we're not giving people a chance to respond to that. So please keep it to a minute.
So let me just address some of the points that Siddiqui made. And like I said, let me just first say I don't disagree that there has been improvement there, but we're not there yet. But to say, almost to represent it as if somehow the problem has gone, it's just not true. Let me finish. Let me finish. And let me just say,
Siddiqui, hold up. Let him finish.
I didn't interrupt you. I let you say what you needed to say. Okay, and let me just say this as well about be careful when people, and I tell my colleagues, don't be spouting numbers and percentages out there, because I know some folks that come to the meetings and they only tell you the good side. If crime is down 20%, that means that 80% of crime is going on. And if you that's what I know. I told my colleagues, because I hear them saying it, and when I hear them saying it, I'm saying they are out of touch with reality. Because if you're a person affected by that 80%, you don't care about that 20%. Because if I live in a neighborhood, I'll give you a perfect example. If I live in a neighborhood that's not really impacted by crime, let's use West Roxbury. If they had no murders last year or this year, and they have one, their stats are up 100% in homicides. This sounds like it's traumatic, right? It's crazy, right? Because one now puts them at 100% increase from last year. And what we do is we use these numbers and we cherry pick them, what's favorable for us to present to the public. And I think it's wrong that we do that.
May I piggyback on what you're saying?
Sure, go ahead.
No offense. See what I did there?
Yeah, I caught it.
Yeah, there you go. But exactly, because if you notice in his statements, he was in a meeting. Michelle Wu was there, great attendance, and then he loved the quote from Michelle Wu because it is in agreement with his line of thought, right? So love it when it's in line with the line of thought. Condemn it when it's not. All I can say is, and once again, this thing about, yes, I work at City Hall. Yes, I have to keep my lights on, if you don't mind, sir. I used to be a young man who sold drugs. Aren't you happy that I turned my life around and have gainful employment, sir? That does not compromise who I am as a black man, none of my politics, my spiritual beliefs, or anything. And yes, I do spend a good amount of time down in Nubian, because as I've told you on multiple occasions, I have products at Frugal Bookstore. I'm about to be there in probably another half hour after I finish bottling up some more of these good oils. So So for me, when you try to make it like I'm not from there, a lot of the people down there who are dealing with some of these afflictions, unfortunately, are also people I grew up with. I see some of my dudes who just got out of jail down there and all that. It's sad. I try to turn them on to jobs. Sometimes I've given them food, I've given them clothing, and all of this. So to try to make it like I'm some sort of outsider or me and Larry don't know what's going on.
Let's be cognizant of the time.
It's just inaccurate.
Let's be cognizant of the time.
You've insinuated on several occasions.
Let's be cognizant of the time.
Dan, right. So we got a few minutes. I want to give Dan an opportunity to respond to what he's heard.
Okay, so
We've got 4 minutes, Dan. So okay.
All right, I only use 2.
Okay.
So this whole idea, I've been who I am all my life. In terms of comparing resumes, it's not about comparing resumes. In terms of this, it's about looking at the actual rhetoric that I grew up with, with all the nationalism and all of that stuff. Looking at the lifestyle, looking at the end result. There was a time when certain areas were safe because the Muslims would not allow nonsense in those areas. There was a time when certain churches had prominence because people respected the concept of what they were trying to do. Changing a name from Dudley to Nubian or whatever the heck you're trying to do has not solved anything. Those type of window dressing moves. We need fundamental change. We need fathers going back to the home.
Behavioral
We need
changes.
mothers raising their kids. We need a family structure, and no philosophy is going to change that.
No, because a quick example of that is every time we go and clean up down in Southampton, we do it during the winter months, right? You know why? Because we know that these folks are more receptive to go inside when it's cold.
Okay.
And in spring, it's just like the groundhog. He comes out, he sees his shower, he's back out there.
Okay, hold up. Let Siddiqui respond to that. I mean, 2 people hit him.
Yeah.
So, Siddiqui, what is your hit in response to that? Being cognizant of the time. Being cognizant of the time.
Yeah, you got a minute.
You got a minute.
Unless you guys want to, let me just say this: if you guys want to hold on to the break, we can continue this. If you have to go, I understand, but I'm going to give you this minute, and then you guys can let me know if you want.
Okay, I'm just saying that the pastor, in terms of his description of what I do out here, is so inaccurate, and the bottom line is that I've never seen him out there, period, NL, so I can't really acknowledge the
I
fact
could say the
any
same thing
legitimacy
about
of
you
what
when you're describing me and Jamal as inaccurate.
It's because of the fact that I don't take this personal, because some of what I'm hearing, to me, is just a joke, and I just kind of chuckle. You know what I'm saying? I know the work I'm doing, and the community does. And the bottom line is that they recognize that, there's a reason why Mayor Wu is considering what we're proposing out there, because of the fact that the folks who were with me were folks who were there to support the position we're taking about that school out of respect for the work that I've done through the years. So I'm good.
Listen, I've seen politicians that they consider it, and then that's just a delay tactic in most cases, and then it doesn't happen. It buys them some time to tell you no.
Right.
But good luck if it happens. I'm happy for you, but I think that cake has already been baked. That Madison part of the O'Brien is moving to West Roxbury unless something dramatic happens.
Brother, it's happening. Trust me. She has assigned one of her head people down there. He's called me 3 days in a row, and they're requesting a meeting. So trust me, it's moving in the right direction. I'll report on your show when it happens.
Okay. All right.
We gotta go.
What exactly will that accomplish?
I don't know. You gentlemen want to hold on? You want to hold on to the break?
No, hold that.
That's my point.
I know. Dan, you've been in this spot. You want to hold through the break, gentlemen?
Yeah. I'll hold.
Jamal, can you stand by?
I will hold on, and I also want Dr. Bradley to note how good I am adhering to the rules, sir.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. That's the most difficult part of this conversation. You've been listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. We'll be back with round 3 after the break.
For the dreamers, they say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog. I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks. This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.